normally I can deep squat fine, but when I work on my hip mobility, I can actually fully get my elbows all the way down to the ground. There is nothing quite like active stretches, man. You feel like you want to die. You feel like you're just gonna fall apart. Not like muscular wise or tendon wise, no real pain, but just your whole body is screaming at you to stop. I feel like that's what active stretching is. So it's very, very difficult. Static stretching is much, much, much easier. It takes a lot of focus to continually tell your body to relax, to sink a little bit deeper. And you kind of got to tell yourself that the entire time you're stretching. So like people think to get a deep squat, for instance, you got to focus on your deep squat every day. Yes, that will help, but focusing on all the surrounding parts of your hips helps a lot more as well. In high school, I couldn't even get past parallel like this. The consequence of that was that I was stuck in external rotation, so I used to walk like this. Flexy gang, welcome back. You guys didn't see it, but I actually had a whole week off, and the reason why is because I got COVID. Yeah, it wasn't good, wasn't fun, but I'm healthy now, I'm over it. But we're gonna do a hip day today. Instead of focusing on any specific skill, today we're gonna focus directly on just the hips in general. And there are a couple different components of the hips that I will be focusing on. Right now, I'm just gonna be warming up, focusing on the blood flow, just getting blood in there, warming up, just making it feel buttery smooth. But, so today I'm gonna be focusing on hamstrings. I'm gonna be focusing on hip flexors. I'm gonna be focusing on external rotation. And lastly, I'll also be focusing on my internal rotation. And once I do all of that, I should feel like I have the butteriest hips on the planet. And that is the goal for today. All right. Oh man, every single time I do a warm-up, it's something completely different than it was the last time. And maybe I should like standardize a warm-up of some kind, but I kind of like that I just have like an intuitive sense of what I'm supposed to do with my body, because I kind of feel where I'm tight. I kind of poke into it, stretch it a little bit, activate the muscles, flex some things. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. Just lubricating things, getting it going. But I think I will start my first stretch as an active stretch. I want to jump straight into it. So I'm gonna do a front split, but sub-maximal, meaning I'm not gonna go all the way down, and it's gonna be active. So you'll see what that means. Basically, my muscles are gonna be flexing like crazy just to hold me up. Here we go, holding. That's one side, feels good. I'm gonna go over to the other side. All right, here we go. All right. Oh boy. Oh, during that, I feel a kind of a soft hamstring stretch on each side. Nothing crazy, but my quads and my hip flexors, so the muscles on the front side of my hip, are activating like crazy. So it definitely warms up the hips doing that sort of exercise. So I'm gonna rest for a little bit. I'm gonna do another set, but I'm gonna try and go a little bit deeper, but I probably won't hold it quite as long. Yeah, and if you see me rubbing my eye and crying like a little baby, it's because I got sunscreen in my eye just randomly. Oh gosh, this is white people problems. Put a bunch of sunscreen on, it gets in your eye. All right, here we go. Back to this right foot forward. I'm gonna try and go a little bit lower. Here we go. That was around 15 seconds, maybe a little shorter. I counted 15 in my head. Here we go again. All right, here we go. Oh, this side is definitely more difficult. That left hamstring feels the stretch a lot sooner, and that right hip flexor feels the stretch a lot later. So you can kind of see that there's definitely an imbalance between the two sides, which is definitely not the end of the world. There's all sorts of imbalances in your body, but yeah, when you find one, I think it is useful to work on it, but don't obsess over it. Don't let it destroy and derail your whole program. All right, one more set. Back to that right leg. I'm gonna try and go as deep as possible. The goal is gonna be above 5 seconds. So it's gonna be much, much shorter duration here probably, unless I can tolerate it. Here we go. Oh, okay. There's that. Doesn't feel too bad actually on that other side. Oh, it feels much more intense on that left side. What's crazy with these shorter durations though, the intensity is much, much higher. But once you stop the stretch, it's like, whatever. It's like almost like you didn't do anything. But it makes sense. If you really think about stretching in terms of volume, you do a certain amount of stretches per week or per day. And the amount of stretches added up all together is your volume. So let's say you did, just like I did, you did 3 sets of a front split active hold, and you held each of them for 30 seconds. Well, it's 30 seconds, then a minute, and then a minute and 30 seconds. So you did a minute and a half total of stretching there. Now, if you only do 5-second sets, 5, 10, 15, you only do 15 seconds of stretching. Sure, the intensity is higher, but your volume is just so low that it doesn't really do much. But in this case, it's definitely helping me warm up, which is why I do it. So I'm gonna focus a little bit on my adductors and hamstrings, and what better way of doing that than focusing on this little pancake here. So I'm gonna do a pancake good morning, which means I'm gonna go in and out of it, and I'm gonna go deeper and deeper every time until hopefully I can get something impressive, like, I don't know, my chest to the table. So that's chin. Forehead's a little bit easier than chin. My mic is slamming into the ground, so sorry about the audio. That was a little bit of my rib touching. There it is again. I'm gonna go in for the kill. Oh, that's good. Now I'm gonna hold it for a little bit longer. Oh, I'm gonna do it one more time. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, man. There is nothing quite like active stretches, man. You feel like you want to die. You feel like you're just going to fall apart. Not like muscular-wise or tendon-wise, no real pain, but just your whole body is screaming at you to stop. I feel like that's what active stretching is. So it's very, very difficult. Static stretching is much, much, much easier. So, yeah, well, I might as well show what static stretching and a pancake stretch looks like anyway. All right, here we go. So I almost fell backwards. All right, so just gonna get myself into a comfortable position here. and sink a little bit deeper and deeper and deeper. And once I hit that point where I feel like it's uncomfortable but not quite painful, I actually just hold that stretch for time and then I start counting. So now is when I would start counting for a static stretch. And the goal is at least 30 seconds, but who knows? I generally think that for beginners, the shorter stretching times between 15 and 30 seconds helps a lot more as long as you do multiple sets of it. And for more advanced people, longer stretch times where you hold it for quite a while, and then once your stretch reflex kind of dissipates and goes away a little bit, you can kind of, like, watch this, sink a little bit deeper into it. And get about 10 more seconds or so. Oh man. You notice how I wasn't really in a rush to get out of that at the end? As compared to the active stretch, it's like, oh my God, it's so crazy. I gotta get out of it. But with the passive stretch, it's whatever. Once you get out of it, you kind of just relax a little bit. Oh, so that's, I'm feeling it. I think I'll do one more set of these. And yeah, I probably won't count. I'm just gonna hold it till I feel like it. I do this, by the way, subconsciously, where I rotate my hips and move around in between stretches. And I feel like, honestly, this is one of the more underrated things that you could do. Yeah, stretching is a little bit different than lifting. Like, if you do like a really, really heavy squat, it might be better to just sit down and let your nervous system relax a little bit. But for a stretch, it kind of helps to keep moving around in between sets. All right, here we go. Pancake stretch. I'm gonna focus on an arch in the lower back this time. It's a lot harder when you arch your back. When you round your back, it's kind of like cheating. Like, this is, I don't feel a stretch at all. But when I arch my back, it's much more difficult. So to give you that visual one more time, super easy, don't even feel a stretch. Arching my back, ooh, it's intense. All right, and I'm gonna come on out of it. Oh, I feel pretty warm, so I think it's time. It is time to get into the hamstrings and hip flexors. And I'm going to do one set of active stretches for each, and then probably 2 sets of passive stretches. And I'll show you a really easy way you could do that. So I'm gonna start with the hip flexor, and then I'm gonna go straight to the hamstring. So for the hip flexor, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find a hip flexor stretch, which is like this. So once I'm in position right here, I'm gonna bring my hands up to my knee. Now here's where the active stretch comes in. I'm gonna straighten that back knee as far straight as I can get it, and I'm gonna hold. Oh, I'm gonna go straight to the other side instead of going to the hamstring. Oh goodness, all right, cool. There we go. Find that hip flexor stretch. Straighten out that back knee. Hold. Oh boy, that is so intense. Man, I can't even convey I don't know what it looks like on screen, but it probably looks relatively tame. But boy, oh boy, your quads flexing and that super, super intense deep hip stretch simultaneously happening together is, oh, it is just intense. So I'm gonna do my single set of active hamstring stretches. So you kind of start from that same lunging position, but this time you sink your hips back, keep the knees straight, lean forward, and drive your heel down. So I'm activating my hamstring by pushing my heel down. Almost like I'm trying to pull this toward my knee. Oh, all right, other side. All right, here we go. Oh, all right. Oh, gotta move these hips around a little bit. Shake it off. I think that's a quote from a very wise philosopher known as Taylor Swift. All right, cool. All right, passive stretches. Now I'm gonna do 2 sets of each. I'm gonna do, this might be a little weird for you, but since I'm gonna be already in the setup, I'm gonna do hamstring, and then the opposite leg hip flexor, and then opposite side hamstring, and then the first side hip flexor. So I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm gonna start with the hip flexor on the left side. That's gonna be the first stretch for me. All I'm gonna do is sink my hips down toward the ground. I'm gonna lift up, push them down, sinking, sinking. This is my stretch, holding. 10 more seconds. Switching back. Now I'm on the first side hamstring, and it's gonna be passive. Actually, I'm just gonna sit down on my back foot and sink into it. Oh, 10 more seconds. Oh man, pulling the toes back in that hamstring stretch really does make all the difference. All right, now the right hip flexor. Here we go. Set it up. There we go, sinking, 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 and holding. Kind of helps to hold my hip sometimes. Ten more seconds. All right, directly to the hamstring. Here we go. Ah. 10 more seconds. Oh man, I know it seems like I'm not talking there because I'm counting, making sure that I hit each stretch for the proper amount of time, but I'm telling you, it takes a lot of focus to continually tell your body to relax, to sink a little bit deeper. And you kind of got to tell yourself that the entire time you're stretching. So yeah, that's set number 1. I know it looked like I just did a lot there, but all I did was stretch each of my hamstrings once and each of my hip flexor groups once there. So back at it again. Here we go. Back to that first side hip flexor. All right, here we are. I'm going to focus on leaning back a little bit too. Ten more seconds. Oh, straight to the hamstring. This time I'm focusing on head toward my toes. Got about this distance here. Ten more seconds. All right. Now to that other side. This side feels a little bit tighter right now. That's okay. The sinking. I'm gonna start leaning back a little. 5 more seconds. Oh, goodness gracious. All right, now more head towards toes. Oh boy. Oh, I was so concentrated. Oh man. Oh, so that's hamstrings and that's hip flexors. Now, what I'd like to do is now shift my focus. Now we're gonna start moving into the rotational aspects of the hips, because we got the front side of the hip, we got the back side of the hip, which would be your hamstring, by the way, underneath your glutes here. And then we also got the inner side, our adductors with the pancake stretch. So now I'm gonna focus on the rotational aspects of the of the hip, which in fact is going to be a lot to do with your glute. And I'm gonna do so internal and external rotation. I'm gonna start with external rotation. And just because I want more, I want more volume with my hip flexors, I'm gonna do a full pigeon. So normally what I would do is I would just do this and I would sink my chest down toward the table to stretch my external rotators of my hip. But by straightening my back leg all the way out, I'm also gonna stretch the hip flexor as well. So that's the goal, to kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. So here we are, focusing more on the front side of the body, which would be the back side of this hip over here. That's confusing. Switching to the other side. I'm gonna go directly over to that first side. And now I'm gonna focus on getting my stomach toward my foot. So now my back has to stay more arched while I do it. Looks like I can only get my ribs over. Oh, so intense. Feel it all in the glutes right here is where I feel it. A lot of other people will also feel it in their adductors and sometimes even hamstrings and lower back. All of those places are good places to feel it actually, by the way. And other side. There we go. All right. Again. Just the ribs are making it. That's okay though. Oh. Oh. This is one of those stretches that doesn't generate a lot of fatigue for me. So I could probably do like 5 sets of this and feel perfectly fine. But that's not my goal to do an entire external rotation day today, which I did, by the way, already. So you can actually look and find an external rotation day I did not that long ago. Whew. All right, that feels really good. Might as well get a little extra in here. Basically, all I was doing with that pigeon stretch was this stretch right here. But technically, since my foot was at a 90-degree angle, it was more like this. And since I had the table to assist me, it was pulling the leg more like this. So this, by the way, is a really good stretch to do as well. Yeah. But by the way, if you're at home, and this is way crazy, but you want to do something similar, you can prop your ankle on your knee and you can lift it up like this and then focus on flattening your back and you'll feel the same thing that I'm feeling. It's just I'm doing a much more advanced variation of it. All right. Now the part that I was least looking forward to, internal rotation. This is something I've always struggled with. I am not genetically gifted in my external rotation. I will say I am a little genetically gifted with my external rotation because I've always been able to do a butterfly stretch at, I started with like this level right here. My feet all the way close, all the way into my pelvis, and my knees were elevated. I've obviously since then trained it and gotten much, much deeper into the butterfly stretch, but in order to be able to do that, you need a lot of external rotation, which I kind of already had due to my hip structure. But the consequence of that is that my internal rotation, see like my active internal rotation, I'll show you how far I can rotate it. Oh, hip started cramping. That's as far as I can rotate it on my own. So I need something like a table like this to help assist me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold this position here and I'm gonna sink my hip down. But in order that my knee doesn't explode, I'll explain this, this is really cool. Your hamstring, by the way, goes down this way and it separates into 2 places and it connects here and here on this part, on your shin, but like closer in the knee joint, obviously, but it connects to this bone, these bones here is what I'm saying. So it connects there. So when you activate your hamstring, when you flex this muscle, it's almost like instead of having your knee be all wobbly and like these bones can kind of separate and twist and get out of socket, if you flex that muscle there, it's almost like putting a band on the top of your knee like this and forcing it to stay in place. So when I do this internal rotation here, when I sink my hip down, I'm flexing my hamstring right now so that I don't feel any pressure in my knee. I'm gonna hold this for around 30 seconds. Man, my opposite side hip started cramping a little just randomly. Man, that was terrible. All right. This side in position, sinking hip down, flexing hamstring. All right, here we go. The cool thing about this is I can do it on one side at a time, and then I'll be able to test it and see if maybe I could do both at the same time in a little bit here. Oh, it's so funny. I did a post about internal rotation one time on my Instagram, and this guy commented in the video, "Don't forget ACL day," because it really does look like I'm tweaking my knees when I do that sort of thing. So I don't know why that came to my mind, but it definitely did. I think I'm gonna do one more set on each side, and then I'll combine them together with an active stretch and then a passive stretch, and then I can test my hip mobility, see how it feels, and then we're done with the day. But here we go. Back to that right side. Here we go. Hamstring is flexing. Oh, it's much easier to get in position this time. Oh, all right. Directly to this other side. Here we go. Hamstring flexing, hip sinking down. Oh, man, for me this looks super natural, by the way, because I've never been able to do that before. I had to train really, really hard to get that ability, but some people are straight born with that ability. Just like I was already, like, ever since high school, I was always able to, you know, have this be almost, it was like this, and I could push it to completely flat. And now it just, you know, it just flops over just because I'm that flexible. I could go further. But in high school, I could already do this. Now, in high school, I couldn't even get past parallel like this. So it's funny, the consequence of that, and I'm gonna stand up and show you here, the consequence of that was that I was stuck in external rotation, so I used to walk like this. And, you know, this is because I was super, super tight. But, yeah, I'm glad I'm past that now. All right, we're gonna do an active stretch for that W sit, or the internal rotation. I'm doing an active W sit right now, so you'll see what that looks like. It's both sides at the same time. Here we go. Activating my hamstrings, sinking down. And I'll come back out of it. Oh, that's so hard. I'm gonna do maybe like 2 more reps. That's all I can do, I think. Yeah, no, I don't want to hurt myself. I'm way too fatigued. Man, that is intense. All right, well, let's see if I can get close to a full W sit here, because I haven't trained this in a while here. Oh, honestly, it does not look like I'm going to be able to hit it today. And that's totally fine, by the way. Flexibility kind of ebbs and flows, especially when you don't focus on it. All right, here we go. Last try. Not going to push it too hard. I don't want a hip injury. Yeah, this is as far as I can go. Oh boy, man. That felt really good though. All right, I'm gonna play around with my hip mobility. Now you'll see what it's like when my hips are super, super warmed up. So normally I can deep squat fine, but when I work on my hip mobility, I can actually fully get my elbows all the way down to the ground, just like so. So like people think, like to get a deep squat, for instance, you got to focus on your deep squat every day. Yes, that will help, but focusing on all the surrounding parts of your hips helps a lot more as well. And you can also kind of add that internal rotation into a deep squat. And this looks kind of funky for me, but I don't know, this is kind of like a super restful position. I'll show you what my Cossack squat looks like right now as well. So I'll be able to go all the way down, add some internal rotation on the other leg. A lot of people think, again, that this is a skill, like an exercise that you would just do, but this is not an exercise you would just do. This is a demonstration of hip mobility. So now that you know that, hey, you know what to do. Do the basic stuff, and then you can do the fun stuff. Oh, here's another thing. When you get really flexible hips, you can also like step up super high surfaces, and even like on the opposite side of your body. Like this right here is a fundamental pose for your dragon squat right here. And yeah, but anyway, yeah, all right. I think we're good to go. Stay flexy, guys. Stay flexy.